Do you want to know how to plan an ERP in your company? Hi, this is Kushal Advaryu, founder of DigiEn Infosoft, and today I'm going to give you a lot of insights on how to implement an ERP or how to plan an ERP or any business management solution for your company. When we implement ERPs in our client companies or when we discuss requirement of ERPs with our prospective clients, we come across a lot of points which we need to consider when we are planning an ERP implementation or we want to develop a custom based or a custom made ERP for our company. So in this digital age, it is mandatory for every company, especially in micro, small and medium enterprises in India, to have a business management solution like an MRP, ERP, a PMS or a CRM. Now, it is mandatory to have these solutions in the competitive environment of India. But how do you plan implementation of ERP, or how do you plan even usage of software like an ERP in your company? In India, when most of the companies are having a single owner or owner is involved in almost every decision making of the company, we need to have a software being used in the company which is giving you almost every insight we require to have for the growth of the business. Now we need to plan the software accordingly so that we are able to get all this information from the software as we require. The steps which we are going to discuss today, or the points which we are going to discuss today in this video, are applicable to any scale of business or any segment or any industry. So irrespective of the type of business that you are doing, these steps are going to help you in planning an ERP implementation on in your company. There are many off-the-shelf ERPs available in the market, and there are many leading companies providing ERPs for decades in the industry. But it is not always necessary that these solutions are suit best to your company. So, but in order to identify which solution is best for us, we need to have a proper detail of requirements of our organization, that why do we require this kind of software, and if we are going to have a business management software like this, what are the needs or what are the operations which should be performed on this software or which should be performed in this software, so that life of the employees or the staff becomes easier, and at the same time efficiency of the employees and the organization overall becomes more than before. Not just that, as an organization we are focusing on the growth of the business. So this, in order to achieve this growth, we need to achieve certain objectives like employee efficiency. Also need to achieve cost reduction. We need to achieve higher profitability. We need to achieve more turnover, year on year turnover. So if we want to achieve all these things, then we need to have a clear picture in our mind or on paper that how are we going to use the software which benefits the organization in as whole. So let us look at all these points one by one. Point number one, identify all the operations in the company. Usually our company is divided in multiple departments and each department is performing different operations. So we need to have a clear picture of what operations are being performed. So when we are having different departments like accounts department, finance department, manufacturing department, procurement department, so what major operation each of this department is performing, we need to have a document consisting all the details of these operations. Next point, structuring the operations. As I mentioned in the previous point, when we have all the operations listed properly on a paper or on a spreadsheet, we know how do we structurize these operations. So this is not about restructuring the organization. It is about the flow which is being followed in the company. So sometimes it is possible that we can club operations together, or we can separate out two different operations, or we can divide same single operations into multiple other operations. So if we have a clear picture of all the operations, we structure them properly, we will understand how these operations are functioning and how we can improve that so that overall efficiency of the organization increases. Third, create a process flow or a workflow of each of the operation. Now we understand that all the operations which are being performed in the company has a certain process. We have a procurement department working on procuring raw material for our manufacturing, or working on procuring certain services from outside. So what different flow or process that we follow to identify the vendor, to shortlist the vendor, or select the vendor, when we place the order, what details do we share with the vendor, and finally how the order is placed. So we need to understand what steps are being followed in executing each of this operation. So when we see these steps, we will have a clear workflow, and we understand how to modify or digitalize this workflow. Next point, identify common activities. Now, once we have all the operations listed with the departments and the process or workflow for each of the operation, now we need to focus on common activities across departments. So the operations which we are executing, all these operations will have multiple processes and multiple steps. I'm sure most of the processes which are being followed in a company are repetitive, or there are common activities across department which can be clubbed together. Now, when we are aiming to have a digital solution in the company, in that case, we can club these common activities together and we can make a single operation out of that, or a workflow can be similar. So this is going to increase the efficiency of execution in the company. Employees are on the tasks faster, and our operations will take lesser time to complete than earlier. Next point, list down all the challenges being faced by the staff on daily basis. So in all the companies, when the ground level staff is executing daily operations, they are facing certain challenges, and challenges will always be there, but most of the challenges can be taken care of by a digital system. So if we have a properly documented questions or the challenges which we are facing on daily basis, we can discuss these challenges with subject matter expert or the business solution provider, so that we can get the best out of the digital solution which we are planning for the company. Next point, digitalization. Now this is the most crucial point of this execution. Now when we have all the departments and all the operations being performed in these departments, and workflow for each of the operation being performed in the company, now we can focus on the digitalization part. So which of the operations or the processes which are being followed in the company can be taken care of by a software, or there can be a digital solution in a software. Usually it is seen that all the operations which are being performed in a company, most of these operations can be digitalized. There can be a software solution for these operations. So work on that. So discuss all this point with the business consultant or the ERP consultant or the subject matter expert, who can suggest which of these all operations can be digitalized, and so that the functioning of the company becomes smoother than before. Next point, workflow or work process automation. So of all the processes which we have identified and we have decided to digitalize, now we need to focus on automation part. As I told you earlier, there are common activities being performed in a company which can be clubbed together in a software. At the same time, there are certain activities for which we don't require any human intervention. If we have lesser human intervention in a software, it is going to give you more accurate result. So efficiency of an organization increases overall, and it is also going to make the data pure and error free for you. It will be able to generate the accurate information that you need to run your company. A simple example could be in today's world can be like, what kind of notifications can be sent to our customers or vendors or our employees when they are performing certain tasks, or when we have invoices ready. But more complex example would be like, if we are generating a BOM or bill of material for a production activity, at that time automatically we are placing an order to a vendor, or at the same time we check what is the available stock in the inventory, and based on that we can calculate how much time are we going to need more to execute this manufacturing process. For a service industry, example would be like when they are completing certain project. Let's say we are talking about a structural design engineering, civil engineering company. So when they are deciding about a project which is, let's say, of 15 floors, so how much time are we going to take, who is going to perform what type of task, which type of task can start after completion of a certain type of task. So all these operations can be automated in a software, and this is going to yield far much better results for you as a company. Next point, create new workflow. Now here again, we are not talking about restructuring the organization, but it is all about the software. When we have a proper software in place which is functioning with the optimum or the best workflow which is possible, then it is desirable that we work out this workflow on a paper or on certain type of workflow execution software, and we see how it is going to function. So it is going to help us in understanding what improvements do we need to make in this kind of software or this kind of process which is going to be executed in software, and we understand that it is going to increase the overall performance of the company. Next point, identify data entry elements. Now this is the most crucial part of this entire exercise. Identifying data entry elements for our daily operations or daily usage of software is very much important. At each level of our processes and operation, we are going to feed certain data in the system. Some of the data can be generated automatically. Some of the data can be generated based on some triggers. So we need to understand what type of trigger is going to be there. When do we need human intervention for performing data entry? What all data entry elements are we going to use to generate the result that we require to run the company? So if we have the final output inside that this is what we need to run the organization for the growth of the company, we require certain reports. Now these reports are going to have certain parameters. Now in order to get these parameters in the report, we need to have proper data entry elements at each level of the software. So this has to be performed before we actually start developing the software or during the development of the software. It cannot be 100% accurate when before the development of the software, but even if you are accurate at 60 or 70%, this is going to make your life a lot easier than before. And obviously once you start beta testing of the software or software goes into UAT, at that time you can identify more gaps in that, and you can suggest more data entry elements to developing agency, and they can take care of that by introducing required fields at required levels. Next point, work on user experience. Now, user experience in today's date is the most important part of any software. Ultimately, the acceptability of the software is going to come from your staff. So, before starting the development, you sit with a proper design consultant or an ERP consultant and involve the senior staff of your company to understand how the ground level staff is executing daily operations, what type of screen is going to help them best, what theme, what color is most preferable to them. It cannot be a complete white or complete black screen. In case we need to have a more balanced theme to have in the software. So in that case, your employees will not be burned out by using software for a longer period. How the cursor will move from one field to another field, how data is going to flow from one screen to another screen, how the reports are going to look, how overall software will give you the experience. So work on all these things and decide. Now all the steps which I have mentioned so far, this will take some time. It is not that in a week's time you will be able to perform all this together. This is a longer journey. When you start planning for the ERP execution or ERP development, it is going to take a significant period of time to perform all these activities. Next point, prepare a list of reports. Now this is again one of the crucial parts. All of these things or all the points we discussed so far, we are doing for the single goal, which is the growth of the organization. Again, I'm reiterating that growth of the organization can be achieved by meeting certain objectives of daily execution. Now these objectives have to be measured. How do you measure that? Then for that you require different kinds of reports. Now these reports can be simple and these reports can be very complex, like it is spread across departments, performance across departments, and you are going to get the results. So one of the example would be like, mapping very first requisition for a raw material being initiated from the shop floor to the order being placed to the vendor, receiving the material from the vendor, getting the invoice, making the payment, using the same raw material for the manufacturing activity, completing the product, selling the product to customer, raising the invoice to customer, getting the payment from the customer, and generating salaries of employees. So these are complex analysis, which can be done through a report. There are many different kinds of parameters which are necessary for your company. You can identify all of those and you can work on the reports of those. You need to have a rough idea of what fields or what parameters or what data are you going to have in these reports. Next point, identify information required from the software. So as I told you earlier, we are doing all these things to increase the profits or the growth of the company. But how do you do that exactly? For that, you are going to get some reports which is going to give you some data. But that data has to convert into information. So in order to run my organization, at the best level and to grow it to the next level, what information do I require? Do I need to have my business which I performed in previous quarter, the same quarter in the previous financial year? What performance is there in this year? What performance was there previous year? Now these are simple examples. More complex example would be like manufacturing certain product with involvement of certain employees by using raw material provided by certain vendor, which is performing best in the market. We are getting best customer feedback and we are getting best price of that. Now at the same time, if we are able to perform predictive analysis, or there are some generated data using generative AI which is helping you in understanding the market better and how you can improve the quality or the readiness to meet the market trend changes, then it is going to help you a lot in running your business. So these are all the points which we consider which are most important to plan any ERP in any company. These are definitely going to be very much useful to you, and it is actually going to be a game changer for your company. This is a step-by-step guide which is going to change the execution of your company or procuring a software or the way of doing operations drastically. If you like this video, please share with others. Please do let us know what are your requirements or what are your thoughts. Mail us at info@dgn.in. I'll see you in my next video. Till then, bye bye.